What's up, everybody? It is Monday, and it's time for Master Motivation with my name is Jason Flame and a good friend of mine out in Florida today, but from Tennessee, Robby Beard.
Hey, and the crowd
Ho!
goes wild.
That's right. That's right. The crowd goes wild. Hey, thank you so much for taking time out. I know you're cruising in the RV with the family and living life, but I appreciate you getting on here with me to talk for a little bit because I'm super excited to introduce you to all of my friends and family. And guys, if you're watching, so far we got Joel watching. Please go ahead and share this so everybody can meet my good friend Robby Beard. I met Robby. Let's see. The first time that I remember seeing you was at the Martial Arts Super Show.
Right?
It was in a private room where we were getting to
Whoa, hey
meet.
now, hey now, don't get crazy now.
we were
Oh
getting
no.
we were getting to meet Chuck Norris, right?
Oh
It was
yeah.
the year we got to meet Chuck Norris, and I look over, and I see you hanging out in line, and of course you're chatting it up with everybody, and just like I'm like, I'm gonna get to know this guy. And it wasn't really for a little while longer that we got to
Right.
know each other, and we've had some great times together. So,
Man.
hey, what's up? K Swift is in the house. What's up, Mr. Kevin Kowalczyk?
Oh, there he is.
So, hey, let's just dive right in and talk a little bit about you. The whole purpose of these videos is that for 2021 my goal was to recognize all the people that have motivated me over the years, inspired me in my career, in my life. So I'm really proud to introduce you, but I want it to be all about you and talk about your childhood, maybe
Oh
talk about
Lord.
your parents to get started. Do you remember that far ago?
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
So tell me about your childhood. Where did you grow up?
Well, I was born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee, which I call the armpit of America. No, it's not that bad. Home of Elvis, and but born and raised there. Yeah, my whole life been in Memphis my whole life.
What was it like growing up in Memphis? Because like immediately I think Memphis. My mom was the biggest Elvis fan you would ever meet.
Right.
That's all I think about when I think about Memphis. But what was it really like growing up in Memphis?
I mean, it was cool. I mean, Memphis has got a lot of background, a lot of blues and music because of Elvis. But what I find interesting is about Elvis is, he's the one who, kind of brought martial arts to the Memphis area. A lot of people don't really think about that, but there was a guy named Kong Ree who had a Passeru, which is basically a Taekwondo school, but he created a Passeru system. And when Elvis was starting to get into the martial arts, he was training, obviously with Ed Parker and some of these guys when he was out on the road. But when he came to Memphis, he was training with Kong Ree and Red West, his bodyguards, all these guys. And, so Elvis is the one who said, look, who's the baddest dude out there? So he calls Bill Wallace up. So he gets Bill to come in from Indiana. And I mean, so it's a cool thing about the background talking about Elvis is like, man, his influence on the martial arts in Memphis is pretty cool. But other than that, I would think, I would assume that Memphis is a big, small town. Like I go to Atlanta, I'm like, man, Atlanta's huge. Or, obviously out in California, and Memphis is like, I can be anywhere in 15 minutes, but we still have it's a city, it's been a good place to live for sure.
So did you play sports before martial arts? Did you play any sports?
Oh
What'd you
yeah.
what'd you do in school in high school?
Yeah, I played, well, I went professional, believe it or not, as a BMX rider. And so I raced BMX for years. That was like my thing. And then I played soccer. I played soccer in high school, football, both of those. And then a little bit of, and almost went pro with soccer. And ended up playing football for a little while, just a little smidgen in college. I didn't do a whole lot of college time because of other family issues. But yeah, I've been always a huge sports guy for sure.
That's awesome. I don't think I've ever heard that or knew that. I mean, I grew up. My brothers and we grew up in kind of a more rural area, and we used to, man, we'd spend all day digging up, making ramps, and then we would build ramps later, and then we
Yeah.
would just ride all over the place. One of my favorite movies growing up was the movie Rad. So if you're a
Oh
BMX dude, you had to know
yeah.
Rad.
Yeah, of course. Had the big quarter pipe ramps and yeah, man. I did all that stuff. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, so BMX, that's awesome. And then you played a little bit of you said soccer and football. You
Yep.
almost went
Soccer.
pro in soccer.
Yeah, yeah. I played with back at this time, indoor soccer was really making a big, thing. So I played outdoor, but when indoor moved in, we had a pro team called the Memphis Americans, and they would practice in the indoor facility right behind my house. So I would sneak over to kid and would play with, and oh man, they all just loved me because I played goalkeeper. And I just, how they put me under their wing, and I was just a neighborhood kid. Well, when I'd go back to play on my team, little did they know I had all these pros that would been working with me all, off camp, and so like, man, how are you so good? Like, I'm not going to tell you, but I get to train with the Memphis Americans half the time. So yeah, I could, it was a good time for sure.
And football. So would you play offense, defense, both ways?
Yeah, I played safety. I played safety. I was,
Nice.
still pretty tall, and I'd sit back and try to read the plays, and that was my spot back there. And so
Nice.
I enjoyed it.
Nice. And then where you did you go off to college after high school? You mentioned you went to college.
Yeah, I tell people I hung out there for 10 minutes because I wasn't there very long, right? My dad died when I was 6 years old, and so instantly I have a single mom, raising me, and man, she did the best she could do. She did a great job, but my moral of this story is we just didn't really have the money for college. You know what I mean? And so she had a good job, better benefits, and that just kind of messed up any kind of. It wasn't as easy to get money, back in these days as it seems to be now. And maybe it's not now. It may be an unfair statement, but because of that, I had to go to work every day. So I was, during college years, I was going and teaching martial arts at that point just to make money. Like, it wasn't a hobby for me. I had to take care of the household. So I sure didn't have. So I went to college for a brief moment in time, but really not enough to speak of.
So
I
what
wish
was
I
it?
could have. I think it's been a great experience.
Yeah, you cut out for just a second. Um, I know we're going to talk a little bit more about your success as you moved into the martial arts industry, and there you are, you're back.
Yeah.
All your success, and you're very successful school owner, business consultant. You're in real estate. I mean, you got all kind of things going on, and I think what's kind of cool is that I didn't go to college either.
Right.
Well, I went for a few minutes, like you.
Yeah. Yeah.
My wife and I went to community college together. But I mean, there is an opportunity to still be successful in life if you don't go to school, right?
100%.
So a lot of people get caught up on that's the only way. But I want to back up a second. What was it like growing up? Your dad had passed away when you were young. What was it like growing up without a pops?
Well, you got this whole thing in your head that you're first of all you're mad. You're mad at the world because all my friends, their dads are still alive. They're teaching them to hunt and to fish, and they're having some career path for them to go down and teach them. And probably the best thing my mom did when I was 7 years old, one of her girlfriends was dating some karate guy. And so my mom said, "Hey man, this might be some manly activity for my son to do." So she put me in karate he died when I was 6, and at 7 years old, that's when I started my martial arts training because of his passing. So, I was always felt like I had to be the man of the house, and I think that's based off of our topic, of what we're talking about is success sometimes comes from necessity. It's like I felt like whether it was true or not, I felt like I had to go out and make this happen. You know what I mean? Because I see her working, and she was, she my mom actually had a college degree, and she worked for the city of Memphis as a real estate agent and did pretty well, considering. Then later on in life, she had some, she got sick, and then this led her to look for drugs. And so next thing I know, she's a complete heroin addict. And so, I mean, my whole thing was blurred there for many years. But I'm saying all that to say sometimes I had to find the success. I didn't have a choice. You know what I mean? I didn't have a choice. Like, I wonder if I can figure out. No. I have to. So I think that's a little bit different journey than I think some people may have to take.
And martial arts for so many people, having run multiple martial arts schools and being involved in martial arts since you were 7, you see it, you hear it all the time, how the instructor in the school, the leaders within the schools become your mentors and become those father figures.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more about your martial arts experience from the time you started at 7 and you got really involved in tournaments. You did really well in the tournament circuit. So talk about that for just a minute.
Yeah, when I first started at 7, and no, this is in 1976, so I aged myself a little bit, but man, the karate schools were kind of fly by night. They're kind of like that now to some degree, but they were really bad back then. So I would train with this one guy for a year, and then he would close down, and he'd send all his students to another place, and they would train. I trained there for a couple of years, and it was just kind of all of the boards. I really didn't get a good mentor at my early ages. And then, somewhere, junior high school, I ran into Bill Wallace's school because Bill had a school. He had a couple of people running some of his black belts running some schools, and he was actually more on the road with Jim Belushi and kind of doing bodyguard stuff on that side. He'd come back to Memphis, but anyway, I ended up landing his school, and so that's where I really got to have him and Don Crenshaw and some other these guys that became the father figure that would come and wake me up and make me go to these tournaments. Because I didn't really care nothing about the competing, but they made me compete back then. You got to go compete. So that's what I did.
Yeah, I've had the privilege of meeting Mr. Crenshaw, and we've spent some time together, and super cool dude. But I have always recognized the fact that you looked up to him, you admired
Yeah,
him, and that
yeah,
he was someone that had brought you along.
yeah.
What was it like? I mean, training with Bill Wallace is, I mean, a legend in
Oh
the
yeah.
martial arts, right? I mean, if you're anybody in the martial arts is going to know who Superfoot Bill Wallace is. What was it like training in his school, working out with him?
Back then, he was, and he still is. He's still super competitive and super, into what he's doing. But back then, he was still able to take a fight and he was staying in shape. And it was, I kind of stayed away from him because it was like you getting over there. That was I was still pretty young and man, they were banging over there. But he's just like he is now. Super great guy, super fun, funny. Just, I mean, I can't say enough positive things about him. He's just always been a great instructor. His mind is super intelligent. He went to the University of Memphis, or Memphis State back then, but he's super smart. Like I don't think people really realize like his. I mean, he knows the body and how the muscles. I mean, he's just super technical. You would be really surprised because he's always comes off funny, and he is funny, but he's super intelligent, and I think that's what made him such a great fighter amongst a lot of other skills. But he was just always had the super good fight intelligence, if that makes sense at all. So to be
Totally.
around and share like, oh, that's angle, this mindset, how you're thinking about the combat, those type of things really made him unique for me anyway.
If I'm not mistaken, he has a master's degree or
Yeah.
a PhD in
Yeah.
kinesiology.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he is highly educated. He's known for his stretch and his flexibility. I mean, he's
Oh yeah.
still on Facebook, social media. You see him doing stretching and warm up videos.
Yep.
So I've met him a couple times, never real intimate, but he was always like you said. He's a funny guy. He likes to cut it up a little bit, and but he was always approachable too.
Oh yeah.
He wasn't one of those guys that how some people get, right, like they're not real approachable.
Big heads. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, he was.
It's like you want to go whisper. You're like icon, right? It's like you need to remind him because in his mind, he's just who he is, and he doesn't, put a lot of weight into that, but he doesn't have to because everybody does it for him. He's really is awesome.
And so you got involved in the tournaments, in the 90s,
Yeah,
if I remember correctly,
right.
right? Early 90s, 94, 95. You had some real good runs. Talk about some of the people you competed with, some of the tournaments you did.
Yeah, so started probably competing in 89, 90, but really didn't. My name never showed up in the magazine to probably 92. So then I started it took a while in the adult black belt divisions to figure out how to do it, but yeah, man, I competed with, man, we just had all kinds of good people. Back then it was Mike Chatteratbutt that was, but Mike Chat, as most people know him, he was on the circuit, still competing, doing forums, and um, um, just a lot. A lot of people that are now, either doing something else. You don't really see them competing. But Brian Ruth, I don't know if you know who he was, but he was an awesome fighter back in the day. But we had some good battles. Yeah, but competed, all over, man. It was some good times, and yeah, I'm glad I did it, even though at the time I really didn't want to do it. I'm telling you, I was never much into wanting to go out and compete, but it was pushed on me by Crenshaw and these other guys. Like, man, you got to go, and I did well at it. I did well, and so it worked out. It worked out good.
Who was one of your toughest opponents that you can remember? Someone that you kind of battled with at every tournament. You always got that one guy.
Yeah, I would say it's probably Brian Ruth, and and if we didn't, we may not show up at every tournament. When we did, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a tough day. There was another guy named Anthony Price that I fought, and I fought him early on, and it was, but I have to say something about this. I think it was in Kentucky or no, Dayton, Ohio. So I can even still remember back where it was, from Dayton, Ohio. And I go and they call the 18 to 29-year-old black belts over here, and there's 3 guys. And I look around, I'm like, I think I got this, right? I have to prejudge, but yeah, this one guy's black belt stick, his brand new black belt, and I said, I think I get me a good, easy first today, right? Well, then this big tall guy walks over, right, and he's got a full headgear on and a face mask. It's kind of tinted, and all I could hear is, will sound like Darth Vader, right? I'm like, who in the hell is this? So he walks up. Well, one of the other, there was me and 2 other guys. One of the other guys bows out. He just, oh, I'm out. He walks off. I'm like, well, okay. So now back to 3. But I'm like, why did this guy back out? And this dude's just, he's, I don't know how, because I'm 6 foot. He had to be 6'3". I don't know how tall Anthony is, but 6'3", 6'4". And I just remember he just looking through that mask, and I'd look, and he just, and he's like Darth Vader. All he was in black. I was like, and this is pretty intimidating. I was like, okay, who is this guy, right? So I get out there and I fight the first guy and I win. So I'm like, well, the good news is I'm guaranteed 2nd place at this point, right? So I was like, at least I get I'm not getting 3rd out of 3. So then the next fight is me and this Anthony Price, but I didn't know who it was. And at the time, so you give some of the viewers who may not keep up with sport karate in the early 90s, he was the #1 fighter in the country, and I didn't know. I had no idea. And a little backstory is he fights heavyweight. I was fighting light heavyweight, but Don Crenshaw went and told him to fight in my division. He wanted me to have this guy to fight, and I was wondering, man,
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, I was actually, more on the bigger side of my division myself, right? So I was like, this dude's no way he's light heavyweight, but whatever. So I get in there, and they're ready to fight. Man, I pick up my round kick, pop him right in the head. I'm like, 2 points, yeah. And I never will forget, James. I turned around and all my little posse was standing. I was like, yeah. And they're all like this. No. I'm like, why aren't you celebrating? I'm winning 2-0. It was fight, pop, yeah. And they're like, no. I'm like, no. And man, that's about all I remember. That dude got on my head and he chased me around that ring, and I fought the best I could. Anyway, I ended up losing, I think, 5-2. I never scored another point on him. But more of the story is afterwards, I'm kind of mad, that Mr. Crenshaw did this. I'm like, man, I'm mad that this dude, fought down, cheated in my mind, right? But I walk over to him. I said, good fight. He says, man, let me tell you why I did what I did. He goes, you just fought the best fighter in the country. I said, yeah. He goes, you'll never fight anybody better than me. And whether you believe that or not, in my mind, as a young black belt, I thought, so as long as I don't have to see him show up anywhere else, I'm good, right? And that went with me. So you're talking about just getting a burst of confidence. It's like, man, I just fought, the best there is, and he obviously clearly won. But part of him clearly winning was my intimidation, right? And so once I got past that, man, for the next 20 tournaments, I didn't look back, man. That's when I started becoming a ranked fighter, because I was going. I've already fought the best. There was no more fear, and it's amazing how fear will hold us back. It somewhat can motivate us, but it can also hold us back. And once there was no fear, I was like, man, I'm good to go.
Yeah, no, totally. I get it. It's funny. We competed around the same time, because the 90s, I don't know what it is about the 90s was just a great time for competition. There's a lot of sport karate.
Yeah.
And I know that there's still, a ton out there. Well, at least
it's coming back. It's coming back.
maybe online.
Yeah.
But I remember, Mike, because Mike Chat's, from California, right? He's not far from me here. And for us, like, Sherman Oaks Raiders were like, they were the rage out here. I remember Satch Williams. You remember Satch?
Yes.
Dude, talk about intimidation.
Man.
That guy, I literally watch people bow out of competition every single time. They're like, nope, not,
Yep.
nope.
Yep.
I mean, he was intense, but yeah, tournaments were a great time. Tournaments were
They
a
were.
lot of fun, and it served a purpose for that time in our life. But then, of course, you moved on from the tournament circuit. Now, what came first? I know you were I know you opened your schools, but you were in law enforcement as well. What came first? Did you go into the police academy first, or go into opening a school first?
School first, and I opened a school. I guess in early '90s. I kind of got out of the circuit part of it. And I think one of the reasons, which is good or bad, depends on who you ask, but one of the reasons the tournament circuit kind of went down, and it is coming back up, and I'm glad to see that, was because the UFC came in and really, started saying, look, if you're not doing this, that's not real. And so,
Right.
but anyway, so I opened a school, but in my first handful of students were ironically law enforcement, right? And I wasn't making any money. I'm struggling. I was working at FedEx at night. Teaching karate during the day, and still couldn't make the ends meet, right? So all these police officers are like, man, why don't you train, why don't you become a police officer? And I'm like, yeah, maybe so. And that's what led me into law enforcement. Well, then I get to law enforcement, and although I loved it, I realized they didn't make that much money either. I was like, well, I'm just going from one extreme to the other, right? And so, and I have a whole new respect, and that's why still to this day I work with law enforcement. But so I finally had to make the decision. I had to say, look, I'm either going to be a cop, 100% go in with this, or I'm going to go to and work my business. So I called up, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I called up Greg Silva, and I said, man, point me some direction. I got connected with Barry Vanover, and Greg said, and I started building my team of mentors. And so I dove into the martial arts thing. And so I still did the police thing several more years, but really it was just the means to an end, if you will.
So, what year did you open your very first school?
96.
1996.
Yeah.
That's the same year that I opened my first school.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
started a rec center program in like '94, but
Right.
'96. It was April of 1996.
September 96. September 1st.
Nice.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
That's
What a
crazy.
coincidence. And again, I know you've had a school for a long time.
Yeah.
And then you went through the academy and you became a cop when?
Uh,
What year was that?
about the same, about 97, 98, something like that, about a year or so after being in there, because I just wasn't making any money. I was like, man, I've got to do something to make money.
Yeah.
And I was working at Fed. I just had two jobs, but the FedEx was part time, and I was like, man, I could do the cop thing during the day or midnights or whatever. So that's what we did. But then I eventually had to make that decision.
Well, and we'll talk about how those things came together a little bit, kind
Sure.
of more recently within the last, 5 to 10 years at least.
Right.
But let's talk about owning a school, being a first time school owner. What were some of the mistakes? All of them. What were some of
Yeah.
what were some of the mistakes that you made? Because in a second here, we'll talk about this question. Kevin Kowalczyk has a great school, Revolution Martial Arts in Colorado. But he's wanting to know what your best advice is for business owners. So before we talk about your best advice, what were some of your mistakes
Yeah. Well,
specifically?
I think I could tie them in. I think my biggest mistake back then was thinking, because I was decent martial artist, that I would just attract students. Right? It's like, I'm the 3-time national karate champion on my little circuit, and of course in my mind I'm Captain Cool, right? But so I thought just that, right? If you're gonna sign your kid up or yourself into martial arts, of course it would be with me. You're not going down the street to someone else, because I've already probably beat them in a tournament, right? In my mind, right? So that was my biggest mistake, was thinking there was a correlation between how good I was as a martial artist and how good my business was going to be, right? So so what I did, and this would also kind of fall back into Kevin's answer, is I started learning what does it take to become a successful school owner. And I hate to say this, it's going to sound kind of bad, but it's just true. Is I had to learn to sell. I had to learn to sell, because if I couldn't enroll members, it didn't matter how good I was at martial arts. I had to enroll members, and so I started reading books. Tony Robbins or Anthony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Tom Hopkins, the Rich Dad Millionaire Next Door, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I just started I consume books or consume books like the Cookie Monster of books, right? And so I learned and crafted my ability to sell memberships. And once I did that, then boom, I also now I'm enrolling people. And because yes, you have to have a quality martial art, and I did. And because of that, my retention was good, always something I'm still to this day working on trying to make it better. But at the end of the day, my advice back to Kevin was learn to sell. And I know a lot of people associate the word sell with a negative thing, but it's really just a Norwegian word that means to serve, right? So it's like if I can help people and I can give them value, then I'm good.
I will never forget the seminar that I heard you say that for the first time.
Yeah.
When you
Powerful.
talked about that Norwegian word for sell is to serve, and I couldn't agree with you more. And it's so amazing how so many martial arts school owners get confused because when you sell, you're a sellout, right?
Right. It's all about
But
the money.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
of course. Um, yeah, that's a huge bit of advice right there. So as a school owner, you went from one school and now you have, is it 5 schools?
Yeah, by 5 schools, yes. So this was, and I learned a lot. And some of this is by accident. So when I opened up, I'm running a school like everybody else, and I start about 130 member mark, which is a couple of years into it back then. Anyway, I realized, man, I need some help because I couldn't do it all. Like I couldn't sell and teach at the same time. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be on the floor teaching, the little kids, and I'm like, there's 5 people that want to sign up, but I can't do it. I mean, I can't be. So I'd have to get like a little bitty kid to, I say a little bitty kid, but I have to get like one of my younger students to teach the class while I'd run over there. That's when I felt like a sellout because now I am, not giving the service that I needed on the floor to go make the dollar. And I'm like, this is not good. So I had to hire somebody. So anyway, I hired somebody, and his name was Dale, but I brought him in, trained him, and eventually he helped grow the school up. So now what's the next step? Well, the next step is I got to pay him money. I got to reward him for what he's done for me. So, but I'm making, I don't want to give him my money. I also opened the school to make money. I don't want to give him my money. So I said, what we need to do is open the school for him. And so I didn't open a school for me. And all you school owners out there that are watching, that's a key verbiage right there. I didn't open the school for me. I opened the school for him. And that's exactly what I've done and continue to do. So we opened the school for him to run. Yes, I'm getting a cut of it, of course. But really, ultimately, it's my school. But in my mind, it's his school. You're right. I mean, he's responsible for it. We actually had I'll give you an example. We had a busted pipe there. We rented some mats over this. We got a bunch of snowstorm, blah, blah. And I called him this morning. I said, man, I think you ought to consider putting in a different type of mat back instead of buying the mats that were ruined. What do you think? Because although I'm the one buying the mats, all I can do what I want to do. I want him to be involved because it's his school. You know what I mean? And so that's a huge secret. I never opened a school for me. I opened a school for them. And that has really worked really well because I don't have to be that greedy guy that wants all the money and pay somebody, the least amount of money I can. I want to pay them as much as they can, where they couldn't go do it by themselves. Because they're with me, they're making more money. That's the whole goal.
And with 5 schools, of course, you can't get it done without a great team and a great staff.
Right.
What's your process, and how do you recruit people? Do you grow them within? A combination of both? I mean, how did you build your team?
Yeah. First question, I do both. So we've got one of my awesome guys I actually got from a school in Jackson, Mississippi. He moved up not really for me. He moved up for whatever reasons, and I brought him in and got him there. Most of my other guys are homegrown, but I'm not. I don't care where they come from. I think the key is for me is it still goes back to I share this goal, right? It's like it's my goal, but ultimately it's I need it to be their goal, right? So that makes staff development easy. So for example, if I'm trying to get someone to make me money, that's tough. That's tough. They're only going to do that for so long. But if I can show them how to make themselves money, they'll reward me with money. And you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, hey, tell you what, I'm going to give you a farm. I'm going to give you the seeds. I'm going to show you how to water it. I'm going to show you when to harvest it. I'm going to do all this, but can you make sure to bring some of that harvest to me so I can share with my family? Well, of course, if you're going to do all that. And that really works. It has for years. I mean, knock on wood, I haven't had anybody quit, that I've done this with, because why would they? You know what I mean? It's just, it's a win-win for everybody. I win, they win, everybody wins.
I love how you brought that together with talking about, I'll give you the farm, I'll give you the seeds, I'll give you the tools, give you everything you need. Now you just got to work it and,
That's right.
take care of me and I take care of you.
Right. If you can envision a farm, right, with all this food on
Totally.
it, it would
Totally.
be nothing to take over. I mean, you could give them a wheelbarrow full of corn and I mean, it wouldn't even affect your farm. But
We lost you for just a second here. Well, we're waiting for him to come back. Just want to thank everybody for watching today. Thank you guys for your comments. We'll get a chance to get back to him in just a second. We got so much more to talk about. I've got notes, so many more things to talk about. So, Robby, can you hear me back yet? There he is. He's
there
coming
we go.
back. Yep, it's all good. So we're just talking about, taking care of your team and your team's taking care of you.
Right.
Let's go, from the school owner perspective. You got involved with MAIA, the Martial Arts Industry Association, right? You're one of
Yes.
the 3 original consultants,
Right.
and still work with them and very involved. What was that? How'd you even, because you knew a lot of other people from EFC and UP and everything else, right?
Sure.
You kind of fell into the MAIA thing, right?
Right. Yeah. So Mr. Silver pretty much gets this thing going. With Mike Mesker, another guy named Keith Scott. Well, me and Keith Scott were buddies. Keith calls me, and yes, I'd done a little bit of consulting with United Professional. At least I did some seminar. I spoke at some seminars for Mr. Silva, and I had some other avenues, and so I was a little bit apprehensive about MAIA, because to me it was another consulting thing. So I said, well, look, I just want to go to the first one, and I want to sit in the back, and I just want to be a bird on the wall, or fly on the wall, right? So we go in there, and I was just blown away at what they were able to do, because I was hearing about schools that would have 200 students doing 50,000 a month. I was like, well, at 200 at $100 a month is 20 grand. I mean, and that's what everybody's paying. How are they doing 50 grand? I mean, it makes no sense. So I just assumed everybody was lying. I was like, oh, there's just a bunch of liars out there, And I still think they're out there, by the way. So then I go sit through this, and I'm hearing Mr. Silverman break down. I think it was like a parents' night out. They say he was, well, most people will make $1,500 on a parents' night out. I made $20,000 on mine, and he's right. If I did all that, I would too. I was like, dude, I'm in. And so it was kind of a freaky thing, but I like to tell people that really they had to prove to me that it was worth joining up. You know what I mean? It was worth being on that team, because I was like, what are you going to do that the rest of them aren't? And I like MAIA too, because they were a team. It's one thing I liked about American Top Team is, like, you can go train with this #1 UFC fighter, but if his career goes down the pipes, you're done. Or you go train with these 25 UFC fighters, and 5 of them careers could go down. You still be Amanda Nunes pops up, and American Top Team's back on top, right? So I was like, man, and I liked that MAIA had a team, and they had Century to back them up, and I mean, whatever expertise, you were on the team, if it's like, well, if you need, systems, Adam Harmon, if you want some marketing, maybe me or Jason, and you got blah, 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 so everybody had their little niches, and what they were good at, and which is realistic. There's very few people who could knock every one of those out of the park. You know what I mean? Very few people, but MAIA had a team that could definitely accomplish that goal.
Absolutely. I mean, 100%, because, I think
you're frozen this time.
Uh-oh. Am I frozen?
Yeah.
Got
That, or
me?
you're just, there you go. That, or you were just blown away by my last statement.
Whoa. Um, yeah, no, I was going to say that I remember joining Maya early as a client first, came up through the system and became a consultant. I mean, we could probably talk a whole hour just on that, but I mean,
Yes.
it changed the way that we did business. I had been in business for 10 years and then before I ever even joined Maya. So I'm thinking I'm doing really good and I'm
What?
not.
Right. What are they possibly going to tell us that?
Right.
Right. 100%.
And even after, I mean, for the past 10, 12 years now, being a part of the team and working with them, I mean, um, great team, great Century, everything. I could say a million things great about them, but I want to get back to you and just, one of the things that I loved, attending, one of the main reasons that I loved going to the seminars, I just say it, is because I loved watching you speak. I loved listening
Oh
to
man,
you.
thanks, brother.
I believed you because that's one of the things with if you want to put consultants in quotes. I believed you. You were believable. You were relatable. You were honest. And I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just saying that
No, I get it.
you were the real deal, and it really drew me in because Mike Metzger is my mentor and my consultant, and I call him Yoda.
Yeah.
But he
Yeah.
for so long before we became friends, he was just the mentor. That
Right.
was our relationship.
Mhm.
But you became a friend,
Yeah.
and really lit a different fire under me when it came to consulting. I mean, you gave me a lot of really, really good advice early on, and you taught me a lot about the consultant game. And so, out of being a consultant, you have forged and being in martial arts for several decades. You created relationships with American top team, and you're a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And you're an active martial artist. One of the things I love more than anything is how can you preach the martial arts or the martial arts business, but you don't train?
Right.
Like that's a big
Right.
deal. So, what were some things that challenged you as a consultant? Working with different clients from all over the world. What were some of the challenges that you faced?
I think number one, and I want to back up just a second because I remember going to the Super Show when I wasn't a consultant, when I had 100 students and I was had no money, and I just remember seeing all these the big shots back then all clicked together. You couldn't even talk to them unless you were successful already. And I was like, man, I want to go up and talk to these. I don't mention any names either, but I was like, man, they're all unapproachable. No, that they look down at me like I for some reason oh, he's got his school's not about. And I was like, man, I don't ever want to do that. And I probably have accidentally done that, even not trying to, but I don't want to do that. I want to be approachable. I'm no better than anybody else. I may have figured out a system to achieve a certain goal, and I'm glad to share that with people, right? And that would also lead me to some of the frustrations with being a consultant is a lot of people only want to hear what they want to hear. And it's like, okay, the reason that you're not having success is because you're following your own advice, right? So if I tell you to do something, but yet you say that's a good idea, but I think it's better if I do it this way. Well, then you're right back where you were. So I would talk to somebody. Have you done that? Did you do that? And they're like, I just don't know. I don't get it. I don't. And they, instead of if you're gonna have a mentor to tell you kind of got to believe in them, and you got to do what they tell you to do, no matter how ridiculous it may sound. You pick them, so do what they're telling you to do, right? And I think that's the problem I have is you hear things like, well, that won't work in my area, because let's charge this amount of money, that just won't work in my area. I'm like, sir, ma'am, I've been to your area and they have a McDonald's there. You have a cell phone and you're driving a car, and if it was that much cheaper in your area, I'd go there to buy it. But it's not. It's the same thing. It's in your head. So we have to be coachable, 100%, 100%. So and that's the problem that we run into. People don't want to be coachable. They just want the magic pill, right? It's like always. I think it's funny. All these people out there that have these, get in shape videos and blah 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 blah. Let me tell you, all you have to do to get in shape is eat right and exercise. That's it. I just told you. Stop spending money. Now you know. But you're not going to do that. You're not going to listen. So you're going to have to, which by the way, a coach and a consultant, as long as in your mind, they're here to not let me fall off that wagon. They're here to motivate me. I get that. That's completely different. Being coachable as she said, be coachable. But at the same time, there's no magic pill to get to work. There's no magic pill. Unfortunately, if there was, I'd be taking one right now. But there's not, right? So you got to be coachable, and you got to put the work in, and you got to believe in the person that's talking to you.
Yeah, I watch I watch a lot of people on Facebook, and they hop from one organization to another. They hop from one consultant or coach
Frozen.
to another. Did I freeze on you? I think they can hear me, but can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay, good enough.
Okay.
That's good enough.
No,
Yeah, I
so
can hear you.
what I was saying was, you watch people that jump from group to group, consultant to consultant, coach to coach, because they're not getting what they want. That would be like the student that goes from school to school because they're not getting their black belt fast enough, right?
Right,
And at the end of the day, you're right. People don't want to hear what they need to do. They just hear, give me what I want,
right,
right? And it's hard work. It's hard work. I know that, as a consultant, as a coach, as an instructor. I mean, it's like me showing you a jump, turning, heel kick, how to do it, breaking it down, and then you say, well, I do it like this. Well, if it's not the same, it doesn't work, right?
right.
So yeah, no, I totally get that. And let's kind of move on from there, right? You have been consulting. You got into marketing. You're doing all kinds of different things with the websites, the cards, the this, that,
Right.
the other. Tell us more about kind of what's going on now.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that you kind of graduated because you're still speaking and consulting, and
Mhm.
but what are you doing now? Where's your focus right now?
My focus is I want I kind of laid back off the consulting because I felt like I needed to go up another level. You know what I mean? Like I'm going, okay, guys, let's do a bring a buddy, break a board. And everybody's like, we've already done that. Hey, do you have your phone script memorized? Already done that. Hey, do you know the 5 ways to close a sale? Already know that. Crap. So I was like, I just felt kind of like I don't want to just be a consultant that I keep telling the people the same thing over and over. Not that that's not needed, by the way, right? Everybody, we got white belts that are coming in all the time that need to. But I just wanted to take myself and plus I saw other consultants with their all their social media experts, and I'm like, man, I'm not really a social media expert. I need to step my game up. So I did. It's not that I took a few years off, but I did sit back and go, let me focus back on building me again, building so I will have something to offer. I just don't want to do it because I can. I want to do it because I actually have something to offer. So I've traveled around, spending time with I was just at the Maya I was just there in Orlando 2 days ago for the Maya event. I sit there and I listen to these guys that are doing it. They're speaking. I got to spend some time with Mr. Mesker, Mr. Silverman, and we're talking about the next event. So I'm still go. There we go. Am I back?
Yep, yep.
There we go. So I'm still involved with that, but I'm also reaching out to some other friends. What's Paul Garcia doing? What's Alan Belcher doing? What's so and so doing? And I'm really just trying to pull these pieces in to where what value will I better have? And it's looking good. Like I'm really excited. For the Super Show this year, I'm finding some things that are really helping my school grow. Now I'm ready to get back on the stage. I'm ready to go out and share this information. I just wanted to have something. I wanted to be relevant. I just didn't want to be up there yapping about something they've heard. And now there's other people that can tell them that stuff. I want to better bring something new.
Nice, nice. And of course, as I mentioned early, you're cruising around. You're in Florida now from Tennessee,
Right.
spending time with the family,
Yeah,
in the
man.
RV, doing that whole thing. How's family life?
Oh
What's it
man,
like? How you love watching those kids grow up, man? Isn't that
man, it's
awesome?
awesome, awesome. And then you think about what is success. To me, success is the freedom. That you and that's it's what I've been working for all these years. I want to be able to spend time with these people, my kids, my wife. This is what's important to me, and so that's probably another reason. Matter of fact, when Harley was born at 7 years now, that's when I took my first step off and took a break from Maya. Just because, man, I don't need, I don't, I mean, what do you need? I got what I need, and so I want to spend time with them. I realize that our time on Earth is unfortunately, it's all limited. None of us are getting off this ride alive, right? So I want to really make sure I want to make sure that it's fun. If I'm doing it, we're going to do it. And so yeah, we left Memphis a couple weeks ago. We went to Atlanta, and I did a seminar for Adam Parman. I did a seminar for Richard Swords, is my Krav Maga instructor school. I left there, went down to see Jim Nyland in St. Augustine. Stayed there for a couple of days. Then I went to Orlando, and I got to train with Liborio a couple of days, which was mind blowing. And then I looked up, and it was still cold there, so I said, "We'll stop in Pensacola just to wait the coldness." So it's going to be nice, I think, tomorrow. So we may head back tomorrow.
Yeah, nice. Well, and you brought that up. I'm glad you mentioned Krav Maga. You mentioned Jim Nyland School because you've done a bunch of active shooter. You were one of the first outside of the instructor that I've worked with
Right,
that I ever really heard anybody talking about active
right,
shooter and Krav Maga.
right.
Um, I think, gosh, what year was it? It was one of the Maya shows. I remember doing some gun defense and active shooter. It's just really eye opening. And so tying together, being involved in law enforcement, you're an NRA firearms instructor, you're a CDT certified instructors. I mean, I could read your list of all the certifications you
Yeah,
have because you have a ton. But how's that going? Are you still? I mean,
yeah,
with
yeah,
COVID, obviously it's a little tougher, but is
yeah.
that still something that's kind of at the forefront of what you're doing?
Yeah, the negative about the active shooter is no one cares about it until something happens. You know what I mean? That kind of drives me nuts. It's like I don't know that I enjoy having a course that no one buys until an active shooter situation happens. I'm like, oh man. So we still do quite a bit of the active shooter, but I was one of the first ones, but I don't know that I'm the best one. You know what I mean? So there's people out there now that have taken, those early steps, have really expanded on it. And I've seen some really good active shooter courses out there. I mean, I still think ours is good too, but yeah, I still do them. I'm really enjoying my jiu-jitsu journey. Was at the Krav Maga School. I'm enjoying taking jiu-jitsu and introducing some of the concepts to Krav Maga, right? And being a black belt in Krav Maga, I understand they don't want a grappling program. I get it, but there are certain things that are new. So hey, man, there's a couple of new things, escapes and positions that it's not in the curriculum that should be, right? So I'm enjoying that aspect of it.
Well, and there's a huge difference between working on your Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills and working on ground combatives and ground defense, right?
100%.
I mean, if I don't have to be down there,
Yeah,
I'd probably be up and running
right.
as quickly as
100%.
possible. But
100%.
yeah, I love that because I think that is that what you did at Nyland School is you did some ground combatives, right?
Yeah, and really at all of them, really, because we teach. I still teach a lot of law enforcement, and that's the name of the game. Is we don't want them to be on the ground. There's too many secondary threats that could be happening. So, but it's probably the safest place to put their subject on the ground to control that person, right? I mean, if not, they're in a big fist fight. So you got to take them down and control them. And sometimes in that they get taken down. So it's all about you have to actually be in my jiu-jitsu program to learn chokes and gi chokes and all that stuff. But for most of my seminar stuff is based off of the self-defense aspects of Brazilian jiu-jitsu
Nice.
as it attains to like law enforcement or to a Krav Maga student. To you have two goals: get on your feet, but if you can't, let's get them in guard and let's learn postures and that kind of stuff.
Well, and when it comes to law enforcement, there also comes into play weapon retention and making sure that the bad guy's not grabbing your gun and grabbing anything else, right?
Right, absolutely.
So, just one more thing, really, before I kind of close out. How has COVID really affect you guys? What
Well,
what what are you guys doing to deal with it?
yeah. So I mean, Tennessee is one of the worst states, right? So that part's not good. So there's two thoughts, and I know this is going to sound kind of bad. You know, we're going to take every precaution that we can to protect our students, our families, our friends, our loved ones. That goes without saying. But then there's the other side that I want to be as normal as possible, right? So everything I do is especially for the kids that are coming in, I just want to give them some normalcy. So with that being said, the schools have actually done pretty well because it's we don't freak out about it. We don't talk about it. we just, we keep it clean. We do what we got to do. But at the end of the day, I don't want to say we ignore some of it, but part of it is like we don't bring it to a light, right? But COVID in Tennessee overall has been really bad. We're still 50% capacity, and I think I haven't been home in a couple of weeks. It changes, it seems like weekly. But when I travel, I come to Florida. I mean, some places wear masks, some places don't. I mean, I haven't. I go to eat, and there'd be no one including the people working there. No one's wearing a mask. And you go back home, you got to have a mask. I mean, on at all times. I don't care what you're doing, where you're at. And but like I said, man, I think people are getting over it. It looks like we're making some progress now. And it's starting to become the new norm, which I don't like. I don't want people comfortable with this lifestyle. I like to go back, coming down to Florida, and we went out while we're in Orlando, listened to some live music. I was like, I haven't heard live music, in almost a year. This is
Right.
great. So I'm ready for those to get back. But overall, it's all good. I try to focus on the positives. So you're gonna always hear me say, "Man, it's good. We're just moving forward."
Well, you're a huge. You love going to concerts too. I mean,
I love it.
being at the live music, and
Right.
I know I'm with you. Um, be happy that you don't live in California. I'll just say that.
I got so many friends that are moving out of California. I love to visit, but I
Yeah.
hear you. I got so
Don't
many
worry.
friends.
I'll be here. I'll be here. You can come visit anytime. Specifically, you hit on it is the mental attitude, right? I mean, because whether it's COVID or it's something else, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this is kind of the time where I want you to just talk a little bit about keeping people motivated, because it's easy to get stuck in that rabbit hole, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
you go into COVID or you go into a challenge with, either you're feeling beat already or you're feeling like I'm just going to blow right through this and I'm going to win no
Right.
matter what. So what kind of advice do you have for people that feel like they're kind of stuck in that rabbit hole where, things are a little tense and it's just they're having a hard time being motivated? I mean, listening to you for 5 minutes gets me pumped up. So give me a little bit of your magic.
Well, here's what I think about this. Right, is in 6 months or the we don't unfortunately don't know when it's going to end, but it's going to end, right? And here, before I say this, I tell people this about a black belt: is you can be 5 years older in 5 years, or you can be 5 years older and a black belt, right? So I know things could potentially be bad and challenging and this and that and the other. But I would encourage you to fight through it, because everyone's going through this, and some people aren't going to fight through it. And you have the chance to fight through it right now. Go to work and get busy, man. And don't let it tear you up. Here's one thing I do. When I walk in my school, I tell me and my team, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it, because if I did, then I know that's why we didn't sign up so many people. That's why we didn't sell any membership. That's why no one came to class. I already got but if I don't want to talk like that. People didn't come to class because my classes weren't good, not because of COVID. People didn't enroll because I didn't market and sell like I should have, not because of COVID. I put everything back on me, not because of COVID, not because of the situation. It's on me. We got to become better. One more thing I'll say about this too, about the COVID situation, is know who your students are. You're not going to please everybody. Not everybody's going to have a Rolex. Not everybody's driving a Chevrolet. Right? There's nothing good or bad about the products. It's just not everyone's going to do it. So you're going to have people who aren't going to come to your school because of COVID. And you just can't focus on them. Focus on the people who are coming. Greatest, service that you can, and then and that's all you can do, right? And so that's what we focus on, is give us students who are coming to our school the best we can give them, right? And let's not allow any excuses. The one in 2008, when the market fell, we lost about 20% of our business. So very similar to COVID, right? So I just told everybody, increase your workload by 20%. If you used to do so many outgoing phone calls, then increase your outgoing phone calls by 20%. If you used to work so many hours a week to accomplish your goal, increase those hours a week by 20%. You just got to do it. But feel good inside knowing that your person down the street, your competitor, is probably not doing it. I know Tom's running. I get this. Zig Ziglar. I always tell this story about Zig Ziglar. He did this big thing at a Tupperware place. He comes off the stage and says, he's talking to a guy at the water fountain. Man, how's business? Oh, it's terrible. The interest is up. The stock market's down. And you only get mugged if you go downtown, right? He's just doom and gloom. He goes back up, speaks another hour, comes back to the water cooler, gets him a drink of water. Another guy says, the guy says, man, it's awesome. He's like, really? What's making it so good? Because he's thinking, man, another guy said it was horrible. This guy says, no, man, it's awesome because everybody thinks it's horrible. So no one's out selling but me. And I'm getting all the customers. And I spin in my head like, during COVID, most people in any business that you're in are sitting back because they have the built-in excuse of COVID. We are not. We are going to move forward, and we're going to go get the people who want what we have. So I think that's just your mindset, really.
I love it. I love it. And you hit on something that, I'm reading right now. I'm reading Jocko's book, Extreme Ownership. And I mean, that's just it right there. Like you
Yep.
can't put it on anybody else or blame anything else. I mean, just own it and work harder. My wife bought me a shirt. I love it. It says, nobody cares, work harder. Nobody cares,
Yeah,
work harder.
no one cares. That's it, man. No one. I mean, because we all got the excuse. We all got the excuse, and I'm not saying that that's not a real legitimate concern. I get
Yeah.
it, but don't let it get in your mind.
A
Don't let
hundred
it get in your
percent.
mind.
I
Yep.
love it. So we got a bunch of people still watching, which is awesome. And
Oh,
everybody
there's actually
from
people watching this.
there's people watching. I
Wow.
know there.
Wow.
I have students, I have friends, people just on Facebook catching on and checking this out. I just want to thank everybody for watching.
Yeah,
And I want
man.
to take a minute, Robbie, just to tell you one more time that the reason that I'm doing these videos is because I kind of looked at 2021 and I said, what am I going to do this year? How am I going to make an impact? Like you, I wanted to take a step back and figure out how do I get to that next level. And it came to me that I have had so many people that have been behind me and on the side of me and in front of me and motivating me, inspiring me, and helping me get to the next level. And so I chose 52 people for this year to be on this
Wow.
show, and and you were one of the first to come to mind. Because
Wow.
when I was struggling as a consultant, and I was, I didn't. I honestly I didn't believe in myself. I just didn't think that I was good enough.
Right.
I struggled, and I remember sitting in the hotel room one time, and we just had this talk, and it changed my perspective. And then we became really good friends and spent a lot of time together at these seminars. And you've been an amazing mentor and a friend to me. I love watching your life with your wife, your kids. I mean, dude, I'm loving it every day because my kids are getting a little older, so I get to see the younger ones again. But you were always that guy that was approachable, always helpful, always real, like I said before. And I don't always get that in our industry and others. And
Sure.
so I wanted to make sure that everybody out there knew that Robby Beard is one of those guys that's the real deal. Robby Beard is a good friend. He's a great husband and father. And I just, I love you, man. And
Man, I love you
I
too, brother. And
can't tell you enough.
thanks, man. Well, yeah. I remember what I said. I said, man, just have fun. You remember? They're getting up on that. I said, who cares? We can never see people again for all we know. Just go up and have fun. I think that's it. Life is about this ride. Have fun.
And we did. We had
And we
some
did,
fun.
and we're gonna keep doing it.
That's right. That's right. I mean, hey, so thanks for being on the show. Thanks for always being a supporter and a good friend.
Yeah,
Really,
your
really,
show.
truly
Hey, by
appreciate
the
it.
way, real quick, man, this show is awesome. I've been catching some episodes. Really good, man. You're doing a great job, and everybody I've talked to is digging it. So keep doing it, man. You're rocking it, brother. You're rocking. I'm proud of you, proud for you, and proud to be your friend, dude, for sure.
Thank you so much. And I just want to kind of give a quick shout out to a couple of our upcoming guests. So hang tight, stick with me
Yeah.
for just a few minutes. But next week, we have David Chacon coming on. We got Daniel Groff, Joel Mancuso is watching. I got
Awesome.
Mike Chat, Frank Silverman. And also, I've got I had all 52 guests scheduled out for the whole year, and I have more for 2022. But Ernie Reyes Jr. is going to be our guest on March 17th.
That's
And I
gonna be
can't tell
awesome.
you, dude, I can't tell you how excited I am because I remember him from Sidekicks, like when he was super little and then like went on to do all this stuff. So I'm really excited to share him with you guys. And each and every week on Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, jump on here and meet some of these people. I hope that you've been inspired. I know that I have. So, thank you guys again for watching. Please share and check out our YouTube channel, and I'm also on Instagram. So hit me up, and let's keep helping inspire and motivate everybody get through this COVID and way beyond that.
Yes, sir.
All right, brother. Well, we'll hang tight. I'm just going to close this with our master motivation video one more time. Thank you guys again. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.